I was reading that Jimmy Buffett is actually not a huge fan of margaritas, which is hilarious to me. And he actually prefers chilled tequila.
Oh, yeah.
And lime. So what I thought we'd do, John, is we'd do a shot of tequila. And, well, I have some lime. If you want to borrow some lime. You want to borrow some lime?
Yeah.
So I'm going to squeeze a little bit of this guy in here. Here we go.
This stuff could use the lime. That's for sure.
All right. So this one's to you, Jimmy Buffett. Clank.
Rest in peace, Jimmy.
All right. Wasted away. Again in Margaritaville.
Blew out my flip-flop.
Woo!
Recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week, Mr. John Rajcich is back for some more music talk. And we'll be discussing our thoughts on the latest Rolling Stones single, a tribute to a few musicians who've recently passed, as well as our own personal list of the top 3 greatest Jimmy Buffett songs of all time. So pull up a lawn chair, grab yourself a margarita, and help me welcome back to the program. He is the one they call the Big Jabita. He is my buddy, Mr. John Rajcich. Woo! Johnny!
Woo!
How you doing, man?
Great, man.
Awesome.
Good to join you.
It's good to have you, buddy. It's good to have you. So how you been?
Pretty good, man. Summer's wrapping up. Son's going back to school, so I guess time to put on the winter body, fluff up a little bit.
Don't pack on some pounds.
Yeah, I did that during the summer though, so that's kind of a problem.
Yeah,
I should probably move to Australia where seasons are opposite.
Or you can move to Phoenix. It's kind of like the same way here. So yeah. But there's been a lot of music news lately. Not the greatest music news, but a lot of death going on here recently. But we did have the Rolling Stones announce that they're putting out an album. The Rolling Stones.
Talk about death. The people that you would think would be dead are still alive.
Yeah, did you see that broadcast they did with Jimmy Fallon, who, by the way, is also in the news? Yikes. But did you see that? Like that, how these guys, hey, look, give them credit because they are in their 7th decade of making music. 7th decade. Yeah. They've been doing this for like 60 years or something crazy. But like, wild. But they're starting to look like it. They're like,
I know that's one thing I was thinking of is they are clearly aging, but otherwise I would think they're vampires.
Yeah.
Other than the aging, the looks. It could be prosthetic. I don't know.
I mean, they still look better than most 80-year-olds, I guess. You know, still pretty sharp. You know,
some 60-year-olds.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so now, just as in general, what are your thoughts on the Rolling Stones? I mean, like, you can't really beat the 60s and 70s Rolling Stones. That's kind of like, that's kind of like the best. But I mean, they've been putting on music for, like I said, like over 60 years.
Yeah, some of my actual favorite memories were of early MTV Rolling Stones with Waiting on a Friend and those songs from like the Tattoo You album. Yeah. But yeah, I like the Stones. I mean, I'm clearly a Beatles guy, but definitely a lot of songs I do love of theirs. Satanic Majesty's Request album.
Yeah, their answer to Sgt. Pepper.
Most people probably don't even know anything on there.
Well, maybe the She's a Rainbow, because they've been playing that on like commercials and stuff like that.
Yeah,
really, but that's about it. That's about it. Yeah. But yeah, no. So yeah, Mick Jagger's 80 years old. Keith Richards, he's 79, and I think Ronnie Wood. I think he's like 76. He's a young 76.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you hear the new single from that album?
Yeah, I listened to it a few times. It's really good.
Yeah, it's not bad, actually. I mean, it sounds like the Stones, right? I mean,
it sounds like classic Stones to me. I mean, it has the sound, like the guitar sound and all that. It's kind of a retro sound, which is kind of nice, not overproduced, like a lot of stuff in the 80s for everybody was. I do like it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how the rest of the album sounds, too.
Yeah, they said there's like a lot of different kinds of styles of music on that album, so we'll see what's going on. But, you know, Charlie Watts, he's not with the band anymore because, well, he died. But
oh.
Yeah, so I guess though they did include 2 songs with him on the drums that they recorded in 2019, and they also have their new drummer Steve Jordan, who is the replacement guy.
Wasn't he the one that Charlie recommended?
Yeah,
I saw that on the Jimmy Fallon interview, and I'm gonna miss Charlie's like calm, smiling kind of creeper face while he drums.
Yeah,
it's wild, man. He just had the same expression the whole time, and he's just wailing on the drums. I don't know how he did that.
He's like just cool, keeping a beat, kind of like the, you know, like it's not much to the Rolling Stones drum, kind of like the kind of like AC/DC, where it's just like just keep the beat. Everybody else they'll do the heavy lifting on this, and just keep a beat. But also Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder make appearances on this album, so that should be interesting.
Oh, wow.
I don't think I've ever heard of Beatles or a Beatle on a Rolling Stones album. Have you?
Yeah, I know they've shared music, but you know, I've heard a Rolling Stone on a Beatle album.
Which one is it? The
All You Need Is Love live recording. I don't know if that was the album cut, but
right, the world broadcast.
Yeah, that was pretty cool though.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. See,
I haven't heard anything from Stevie in a long time. Not that I've been paying attention, but that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on the Rolling Stones there?
No, I'm definitely impressed what I've heard so far.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We'll have to check on that album. And
when was their last album out?
God, I think it was like 2005. I think it was like Bigger Bang that they had their last like 18 years ago or something crazy. Yeah. Which by the way, one of my favorite Stones songs is on that album. It's like a very bluesy song. I remember I played it for my buddy Rich, and I go, Rich, what do you think of the Stones? And he's like, I'm not a huge fan. I go, and I just started playing all these, like 100 random songs, and I'm like, I put that one in there. I just hit it, and what do you think of this song? And he goes, oh, that's awesome. He goes, and I go, that's the Rolling Stones, my friend. And he goes, well, I'm just gonna have to rediscover these guys, I guess, because there's some good stuff in there. But
what about Heartbreaker?
Oh, it was that's a great song. Yeah. So we're gonna get to Jimmy Buffett here because that's kind of like one of the big artists that have died recently here. But 2023, there's been some big deaths this year. Which, I mean, moving forward from now until till the end of our life, there's gonna be a lot of deaths coming up.
Yeah.
So, but we've had like David Crosby, Jeff Beck. Burt Bacharach, Harry Belafonte, Gordon Lightfoot, Tina Turner, and Tony Bennett as some of the bigger ones this year. Obviously, Sinead O'Connor, and there's been a couple others here.
I was surprised Sinead O'Connor is such a well-known musician just because she had the one song that was huge. And I tried to think of other music. I know my cousin really loves Sinead O'Connor, but I can't think of another song of hers. But I was still sad. I was like, oh no. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because she was like, I think Sean and I talked about this. Like, she's like a real, like, true artist. Like, she didn't show up to the Grammys. She's like, she boycotted everything. Like, MTV Music Awards. Why would I show up to that? Like, what? Like,
yeah. That might be why she wasn't as well. Out there as much.
Yeah, she did not like the fact that she got famous. Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm like a worldwide star now. Well, I don't like that very much. Oh, okay. But yeah, no. So another singer that passed away recently was Smash Mouth's Steve Harwell. What are your thoughts on Smash Mouth, the band Smash Mouth?
I mean, they were great. What was it, late 90s? They started early 2000s. They were a great piece of that era, but I mean, that kind of ended, I don't know, a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And then after that, it just kind of faded away.
Which is still bigger than most bands.
Yeah, I mean, except for, the Shrek movies, which kind of like exploded them into like the forever famous.
Yeah. And that's kind of like when I lost interest in them.
I know, they just kind of destroyed the two songs off of that album.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you get so big that you're worldwide famous because you're in a Disney movie. It's kind of like when Elton John was like so cool in like the 70s and the early 80s, and then he's like, "Can you feel the love?" I'm like, ugh.
It was funny. I had to go back and listen to all the Smash Mouth songs because I couldn't get their two Shrek songs out of my head. And I was going through the other songs. I was like, oh yeah, I really like these songs.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So their first two albums, their first album had like the Walking on the Sun. And I don't know how anybody can not like that song. That song's just, it's so catchy.
Yeah.
It's like 60s, very retro feeling, And then it also has the Why Can't We Be Friends cover by War on that. That's a fun song. The name of their first album, do you know? So the name of their first album is called Foosh Yu Mang.
Yeah.
Do you know what that's in reference to?
No.
So I did not know this until I just a couple of days ago. I was like, what is, are they making fun of like Asian people or something? Like, what is this? Foosh Young Man?
I just figured it was some Asian.
Yeah, right. So apparently it's from the movie Scarface when Al Pacino says, "Fuck you, man." And it sounds like, it sounds like he's saying, "Foosh you, man."
I can see that.
Hey, fuck you, man.
Yeah, Can't Get Enough of You, Baby, Walking on the Sun. But yeah, that whole album, Astral Lounge, was
oh my gosh,
a good album.
No, so okay,
real good album.
When I think I heard that album a little bit late. I think I heard it maybe 6 months after it came out, and I don't know how I don't know if I bought it or I think I got it for free, like from the radio station. I always would get like these free albums from the radio station. I just put it in, and I was like, I'll listen to some Smash Mouth, I guess. And I turned it on, and I was like, and I just listened to it from front to back, and I'm like, wow. I should not be liking Smash Mouth this much. That full album, I always tell people, I go, listen to that full album. It is so good from front to back. Like it mixes so well that that's just always what I thought. I was like,
yeah, that's why sometimes you gotta forget like the name of the band and their kind of status in pop culture and just listen to the music.
Dude, it was so good. It's just like, I don't know what it's like 60s, like space rock. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like it's kind of like when lead. Yeah, it's kind of like when, who's that band? Sugar Ray. You remember when like Sugar Ray, they became their first breakthrough album with that I want to fly, that song. They were like, oh, so that's what people want to hear. And then they made the full album, their next album like that. And then they exploded, got, huge, but like, but that's kind of like what they did with this one. Cause that first Smash Mouth album is kind of like, spotty. It's like, but then it has that song Walking on the Sun. They're like, oh, people like the 60s space rock sound. I think we're going to go with this. So
smart.
Yes. Cause that next album was awesome. So if you haven't heard that album, I definitely would suggest checking that out. Cause it's pretty fun. It has like, what are some of the big songs on there? It has like, like you said, it has Can't Get Enough of You, Baby. That's a cover, by the way. That's like a 60s cover, or like, that question mark and the Mysterians or whatever, I think it is. And then they have like, just like others, like it starts off with Who's There, which is a cool song. And obviously has the All Star and,
Then The Morning Comes is probably one of my favorite ones on there.
Yep. And then I remember the end used to play that song, Stoned. Used to play that song.
Yeah, that one's funny.
Yeah, I was like, wait, this was never released as a single, but the end used to play. But the end used to play a lot of. They're kind of like the K-Rock of the Northwest. They would play all the random songs. Well, I think we'll just play this just for the hell of it.
Are you like me and anytime you think of the Steve Harwell, you imagine Guy Fieri?
You know what's funny? They were like close friends.
Oh, no way.
I just saw that the other day. Like Guy Fieri expresses his sincere.
They don't even look alike.
Yeah, exactly. Chubby. The facial hair, the spiked hair. Yeah.
Just like a conglomeration of 2000 culture smashed into one character is probably like, Guy Fieri.
Yeah, it's kind of like, Richard Simmons, in the early 80s. He's like, that's when I got famous, so I'm always going to have that same look. I'm going to be in the short shorts and the tank top and the fro. That's my look from now on, because that's how I was famous.
Fortunately for us.
Now, the other notable artist who is not named Jimmy is Gary Wright. And Gary Wright, what a fascinating guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, for real. I didn't know this guy by name, so when you mentioned him, I looked it up. I was like, "Oh shit, that guy!"
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, he's kind of like a 2.5 hit wonder, but behind the scenes, he was like huge. He was like all over a bunch of people's records. He was like, it was weird because like they were saying that he was born in Jersey, but then moved over to England and joined a band called Spooky Tooth or something like that.
Yeah, that's a cool name.
And then that's where like he kind of like met all those guys like George Harrison and stuff like that, and that was fascinating because like I guess he was on every 70s George Harrison album. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, that's wild. I didn't know that. I only thought he was. Remember, when I was sending you a message, I was like, yeah, he's like on Cloud 9. I'm like, yeah, but he was on every other album like in the 70s
starting
too.
from All Things.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, his first album.
It Don't Come Easy on Ringo. He played the piano.
Yes.
But I was looking at his credits, and my God, he played with George, Ringo, Three Dog Night, Harry Nilsson, B.B. King, Ronnie Spector, Leslie West of Mountain, Man for Man, and frickin' Judas Priest.
Wow.
He wrote the Feel For You song that was made famous by Chaka Khan in the 80s.
No way.
Chaka Khan.
That's crazy.
Chaka Khan.
I didn't know that.
Salt and Pepper.
What?
And yeah, Salt and Pepper. He did a Kanye West and Jay-Z song.
Dude, what the heck? You know what's funny?
Clinton,
I read, check this out. I read that John Lennon wanted him to play piano on Imagine.
Uh-huh.
But he wasn't available.
Oh, no way. Dang, man.
It's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm not available. I'm sorry. He's like, oh, okay, well.
Yeah, who is this dude? I mean, come on.
God, that guy was like in like huge demand, apparently. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And his music, I actually really enjoy his music. It's kind of a niche mood to want to listen to it because it's kind of like this weird 70s, 80s dark fantasy synth funk Harrison-esque folk rock music.
Yeah, so for people that aren't aware of who the hell we're talking about, he's the Dreamweaver guy, right?
Yeah.
But which is a crazy, that album, that Dreamweaver, where is it? This album right here. That was a very revolutionary album because it was recorded using like only keyboards and with drums. So they had drummers. They had like, some drums on it and like with some maybe like drum machines and stuff like that. But the only guitar that's found on the album was a song called Power of Love, not Huey's Power. but
Can't touch Huey.
Yeah. Ronnie Montrose. He is the one that played guitar on that.
Oh.
That song. And it's one of the first rock albums made with all synthesizers. So it's pretty revolutionary. Like, if you see those videos of him, he's like, there's like him and like some dude like playing the guitar up on stage. Like, what is this? Okay.
I love the bass, the like sound of their synth bass on there that they use. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it's really cheesy, like 70s foreigner sounding love ballads and stuff. But I don't know. I think just that synth that they use made me enjoy it more than I should have. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. And Nilsson, that I always love that song too, Without You. And I always talk about that song. That's like one of those songs. There's like a handful of songs that I've heard of that people did one take on singing. That was one of them. And Harry Nilsson did that. He did that song in one take. And if you hear that song, you're like, that is insane. His vocals are crazy.
I can't even imagine a bad song being done in one take.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, so Harry Nilsson, yeah, what's his name? Gary Wright played the piano on that song, but yeah, that's wild, man. So he had Dreamweaver, which hit, this is funny. Well, not funny for him, but it's kind of a funny stat. He released Dreamweaver in like late 75. That hit number 2. Then he released Love Is Alive in 1976, hit number 2. And then he had kind of like a comeback song with Really Want to Know You, which hit number 16 in 1981. I think I heard Howard Stern talking about this. He's like, what is this? He's like, oh, so he played for George Harrison, then he came out with a song, I Really Want to Know You. No, different song. Different song. It doesn't sound like that. So
that was really cool, was his friendship with George. I mean, they were pretty close, and he kind of picked up on George's Eastern philosophies and stuff, and George's like use of Eastern music in some of his songs, and so he kind of incorporated a lot of that into his music, and you can kind of hear it in some of his songs. Like Dreamweaver definitely has some sort of like.
Yeah, I actually read that he wrote that song when he went over to visit George in India, when he was like over there like in India with him, and he wrote it on like acoustic guitar, but then he came back and like, you know, obviously finished it with all the crazy synth keyboards and stuff like that. But it is kind of like, if you put that song on, you know, I'm just going back to like, you know, John's basement circa like 1993. You have all the black light stuff on, you put that song on like on your turntable there. That'd be like that's a crazy song to listen to. You're like, whoa, it's like just like all crazy. You know, obviously people think of like Wayne's World now.
That's where I heard it first.
Yeah.
The soundtrack of that. But it was I wonder how well it did when Wayne's World came out. It probably put it right back on the charts.
Yeah, like with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that recharted, right? And they got like huge. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. But yeah, so Dreamweaver is no longer, and you know, Gary Wright was 80 years old. That's wild. That's because you could tell he was kicking around the music industry for quite some time if he was 80 years old, you know?
Yeah, if he did a song with Kanye and Jay-Z, that's pretty recent.
Yeah, right.
Like, I didn't really look into what his contributions were, but it just kind of blew me away to see their names. And I was like, man, I wonder what that song was. If it was just a sample but it sounded like he did some writing on there. And I was like, what the heck would he be writing?
That's wild.
I doubt he'd be writing their lyrics. But that would be awesome if that was true.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, you know, Paul McCartney did that a few years ago with Kanye and Rihanna.
Yeah, that was really good.
Except for the fact that Paul said that he was originally going to be like singing on the song, and I think they dropped him out of the mix, and he was like, "Oh, okay." Like, so they just have him playing guitar in the background and stuff like that, and he's like, "Okay, well, that's fine. I wrote the song, so it counts as a #1 hit or whatever the kid was." I don't know, but that is a good song, mostly because of Rihanna. Not that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Any other thoughts on Mr. Wright?
No, I think we covered it all. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. So Jimmy Buffett, one of the biggest icons in music, whether people like it or not. He is huge. Yeah. He is
big time,
monstrous. So now I don't know if there's I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's like a bigger icon in the history of music that did not have a #1 hit. Because like, I'm trying to think, like, has like maybe like someone like Kiss, like, you know, because Kiss didn't have a #1 hit or something, like, you know, like, but even, I don't know.
They weren't as big though. I mean, they had the Kiss Army, but
the Kiss Army, baby. I mean, with like, you know, 15-year-olds in 1978. Makeup. Yeah. I mean, they're huge, right? But yeah, no, like, I mean, Jimmy Buffett was so beloved, you know, and it's like, I know that Margaritaville, that was his biggest song that actually charted. It hit number 8 on the Hot 100 in 1977 or something. But it did get number 1 on the adult contemporary chart.
Man, I don't know why that song is like so good. Like, it's obviously his best song, and I would think it should have been better than adult contemporary number 1, but that's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, well, it's a different time of music too. I mean, think of all those songs that came out, like, just every week there was like someone bumped off the number 1, someone bumped someone off on the number 1 charts, You
go to any bar and put that song on the jukebox, and you're going to have every drunk in there singing along.
He has a few of those songs. That's what makes him so like fantastic. He's all these party songs. But John, what's funny, real quick? When I was thinking of Jim, so I always think of like people's parents, and I always think of obviously my dad. My dad's a huge Jimmy Buffett guy, right? But like, I always think of like, remember when we'd be at your place in your basement, which was fantastic, by the way. That basement was just one of my favorite places ever. But when we'd have to go to the bathroom, we'd have to go upstairs, and they would always be partying. And I'm like, man, it looks, it's funny. Like, they're older, they're not our generation, but they're having fun out here. It's awesome. It's like, it's just like they were always having fun, having a good time. I'm like, kind of like wish we were like up here partying with your parents. We didn't drink back then or anything, but
it was kind of like a mullet where it's like party upstairs and chill out downstairs. Yeah, very chill downstairs. We're like, I guess we'll order pizza and watch, which is great. I mean, we were just watching movies. Watch public access.
Right. That guy with the lean up that real close to the TV and was like, Kurt Cobain was murdered.
There's a funny story actually. Yesterday I was watching the top 12 crazy public access shows, and one of them was the Bong Hit Champions from Seattle. I was like, wow,
dude.
I could have thought of better ones than that, but
like the girl that used to paint her boobs and stuff, or like,
I'm the creepy pastor dude.
There's a lot. There's I am Bruce, blah blah blah. And you're like, ugh. Oh, it's giving me nightmares. But I it's funny. I thought there was a documentary that was going to be coming out like 5 years ago about the Seattle scene of because it was one of the biggest public access like scenes in the entire country. And
oh wow,
yeah. So I it could have been released. It's probably not a mass release of like a documentary, very specific to like our region, but I know they were working on it because I saw a trailer for it. So maybe we'll have to check that out. So, but anyway, so what are your thoughts on Jimmy Buffett just as an artist, just in general?
I kind of knew more about the Jimmy Buffett vibe and culture than I really knew his music. I mean, I obviously knew the couple of really big hits and stuff. Mm-hmm. But man, he's just such an icon of, you think about him and you instantly know the culture. It's kind of like the Grateful Dead or Fish or the Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Because it's a I don't even know what you call it. I mean, it's like it's kind of like a cult, but it's like a fun party cult. Yeah. It's awesome. It's like he definitely created a party atmosphere. For music.
And it's not just partying. It's kind of just like a normal person enjoying their life, having some drinks.
Yeah, it's
chilling.
An escape.
I mean, escapism, I guess. Is a good word for it.
Yeah. So Jimmy Buffett. Yeah. So his music to me, when I think of Jimmy Buffett, I think of like fun. Yeah. I think of like I mean, there's like he has serious ballads, and he has some other songs that are other stuff, but like it's mostly fun. And I'm always fascinated when people say I know people that are like, I hate Jimmy Buffett. I'm like, okay, I could see maybe not being like the biggest Jimmy Buffett fan, but like, you hate Jimmy Buffett? Like, how do you hate Jimmy Buffett? When I think of Jimmy Buffett, I think of like a guy that's always smiling and like having a good time. And people are like, drinking and partying, like, this is great. Like, they're all like, everyone's into it. Everyone's friends. Like, it's like, oh man, this is so amazing. Like, I would love to be, in that atmosphere, especially when I see those old videos of Jimmy Buffett. Like that, there's a video that I was talking about with Sean, and it's like this. It's this video of they're in Miami, and like they're at this arena, and it's like on the water. It's like on the bay, and like there's people in the water. Like this is at night. There's people in the water on like inner tubes and boats and stuff. They're all drinking and partying. I'm like, that would not be happening in 2023. I'm sorry. They're like, we don't want to get sued for people drowning out there. There's going to be drownings. There's going to be people drowning. So we don't want any part of this. But, back then they're like, well, if you drown, then it's your fault, you dipshit. Like,
Yeah.
So, but it looks so fun. I'm like, oh man, that looks so awesome.
I feel like I might be part parrot head just because it sounds so much like my parents' drinking music.
Your parents had to be fans of Jimmy Buffett. They had to, like, I don't know. It's so funny. Like there's like I don't know, maybe that's why people don't like parrots. And they're like, well, people dress like in parrot heads and shark heads and fucking, I don't like that shit, man. I'm like, cares? Like what?
They're like colorful dinosaurs, and I don't like dinosaurs.
Or maybe here's another theory that I have. Maybe it's that the songs are so overplayed. Because like there's a handful of these songs that are, he has that list of songs. I think it's like the top 8 or whatever they call it. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a list of songs that he played pretty much at every show where it's like, kind of like, if you don't play one of these songs, there's gonna be a riot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so maybe it's like that some of these songs are overplayed, but I think that the people that don't like Jimmy Buffett are people that don't know his songs. Maybe that's it.
Like I don't love the majority. I'd probably say 98% of his music, but I like him just because of the vibe.
Oh my God! Have you ever seen his interviews? He's always laughing. Yeah. He's in a good mood. He's like, even when they ask him questions like, "Are you a good guitarist?" He's like, "No, I'm not a good guitarist."
Like, I don't even know how I got here. He's like, I worked hard. I was lucky.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not a good guitarist. I'm not particularly a good singer. He's like, and he's not. He's like, if you listen to his music, like, I always like talk about those artists where they're not necessarily a good singer. Like they have that talk singing where he's like. I staying away again and Margaret, it's like basically he's talking, so it's like, okay, well, maybe they don't like his singing. I don't know. There has to be something. I need to get to the bottom of this. I need to ask directly why some of these people, listen, at the very end, it's their opinion. They can do whatever they want. I'm not like, sitting there like, you will like Jimmy Buffett. I don't care either way. I'm just saying, like, it's fascinating to me that people don't like Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. Maybe one time they went to the beach and got a lot of sand in their butthole.
Or maybe they got mugged while a Jimmy Buffett song was playing in the back.
Oh dear. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like maybe they're traumatized. Yeah. So, but I'll tell you this though, his concerts. So what I think Jimmy Buffett might go down in history for the most is if you see those concerts back in like the early 70s, just a regular concert, they're like sitting there. They're like watching, they're like, having fun. Just, oh, this is a great concert. He turned these concerts into party events.
Yeah, like, they look cool.
They're crazy. Like people are just they're dressing up. They're part of the show. They are like out there. They're having a good time. They're just, everyone's dancing and all this good stuff. And it's like, if you're going to a Jimmy Buffett show, you're going to have a good time. I remember my dad went to a Jimmy Buffett show and it was in Auburn and it was pouring rain.
Where
doesn't sound like a good,
the football stadium?
There's something. It was something. Right. Well, this is like later. This is like, I don't know, early 2000s maybe.
Oh, okay. White River.
Yeah, and it's just pouring rain. I was like, oh, this is a great time. I'm sure part of his requirements are like, we need space heaters. If we're going to the north, or we're going to like, anywhere north and we're playing outside, we need space heaters surrounding us everywhere. We need like, tarps and I don't know. But it was just pouring, I guess. And it was still a good time. He's going to always bring a good time and a party there. Like, just party stuff all over the place. People, just interactive. I think that's kind of like one of those things that, also, it's not like the crowd never, or these artists never interacted with groups. They did, but it's not like, you know, it's just these interactive songs. Like, they're just, you know, I like mine with lettuce and tomato. You know, like everyone's like singing these songs, you know, just ridiculous. But I don't know. What would you categorize his songs as?
Well, I mean, if you look at his earlier stuff, it's like it's kind of more country folk music. And then later on, it's like in the 70s, it's more what he's known for. And then we both agree that the 80s were not great.
80s are pretty rough. Even like just to go back and listen to it, you're like, oh God, what is this?
Honestly, I haven't listened to anything since like that era. So I don't know what his current stuff was. I know he had that huge hit with Alan Jackson, the 5 O'Clock Somewhere song.
Yeah.
Which blew up.
Yeah, that's a fun song. But like I think he himself called his music Caribbean, like a drunken Caribbean rock and roll is what he said it was.
It feels like it's more like my like island music, but like the dirty part of the island, where it's like it's not where the rich people go, it's where the locals go from like the Swamp Bayou area, go down to their vacations. That's what it feels like. I like that vibe. It's
party songs, it's beach music, Caribbean country. I don't know, straight up country, like you said, and you know, tropical. I mean, it's all over the place, but it's like you know, I don't think he's going to go too many songs in a row that are not one of those, you know, big party songs.
They kind of started out a little Croce vibes, and I was looking up, and he was actually being promoted as kind of the Jim Croce replacement after Jim Croce died. By his record company.
Interesting.
I was like, I could see that because a little of his earlier stuff kind of had a Croce vibe, but not quite.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's kind of like you know, his fun songs are even kind of like that, you know, like Oh, yeah. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off an old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Jim.
Yeah, can you imagine a concert like that with the both of them?
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Be awesome. You know what's funny is there's a formula to artists like this. And when he hit with a Margaritaville, especially with Margaritaville, like, you imagine like hitting with that, you're like, holy moly, well, I guess I know what people want, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's interesting because I don't know how much of it is the record label pushing for that kind of thing versus the artist. Maybe it's a little bit of both where they're like, okay, well, if I'm going to sell millions of albums, then I might as well at least, put out at least one song like that, right? So like in 77, he put out Margaritaville, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of like when this might be a reach, but it's kind of like when the Offspring were like, you gotta keep them separated. It's kind of like that, kind of like a novelty-ish song. But if you listen to the rest of the album, it's kind of like, punk. It's like, it's pretty hard, fast punk songs.
Uh-huh.
And then the next album they had, which is like they kind of like, they had some novelty-ish songs on there. And then they just continued on with that, where they would they'd make their straight punk album or whatever you want to call it, pop punk or whatever. But then they put and all the girlies say I'm pretty fly for a white guy, like songs like that.
Yeah.
Or why don't you get a job or something like that. But they have their
mainstream friendly stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think they're kind of like that. Maybe they're like, I'm going to.
One to pay the bills and the rest to express their artists.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that we would do a top 3. Our top 3 favorite Jimmy Buffett songs. So what's funny is I was like, this should be pretty easy. I don't think I'll have any problem with this. And I was like,
it was harder than I thought.
It was because, all right. So even though my songs are primarily, I think they're all 70s, by the way. I don't know. Because when I listen to it's weird when you listen to artists, like I think you said it best. You're like, the 80s were pretty rough on these 70s artists.
Most of them, yeah.
Some of them survived, but
Stones did well first half of the 80s.
Yeah. Oh,
They did really good.
Yeah, they put out some bad stuff though in the mainly the mid '80s.
Yeah.
but yeah, occasionally. But the Stones are the Stones. You know what I mean? Like the Stones are they were good enough to survive. But Jimmy Buffett, I'm like, what happened? Like to the production? Like these, like what? Maybe he was just too busy touring and was like, let's go into the studio and pump out some more crap. Like it was like,
yeah,
what?
maybe.
God, I tried to listen to this. I'm like, what? Like, did his band quit? Like, what happened? What happened to the Coral Reefer band? What happened here, man? What happened here, Jimmy? But yeah, so I thought that, our top three doesn't have to be anything crazy or anything like that. We'll just give our selections and why we chose them, what we liked about the song, maybe, and maybe give our runner-up or runner-ups at the end. And now my question to you, John, is: are we counting every song that he appeared on, or just like duets and songs that he's featured on, or just his own songs? Because if that's the case, that I got to rework. I gotta go over here and I gotta redo my list, because
I didn't even look at stuff that wasn't strictly his music.
Okay. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, thank God. Okay, because you mentioned 5 O'Clock Somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But Knee Deep with Zach Brown Band. That song's fantastic. That's one of his best songs ever. But it's Zach Brown, and he's like, I want my.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Oh, it's so good. But it's
good thing, because it might have made my list harder too.
It's fantastic. It's it's like it's a Jimmy Buffett song. He probably wrote it and he's like, fuck man, this is like I just wrote a Jimmy Buffett song. How could I make this any better? I'll get Jimmy Buffett on the song. Like, so yeah. So, but all right. So John, let's just start it off, man. What do you have for your third place spot for your top Jimmy Buffett songs of all time?
So, just to be clear, I am not including Margaritaville because that is too easy, and I wanted to make room for other songs. Okay. That would take up number one, hands down, no question. So I was going to spice up my list a little bit.
Is Margaritaville kind of like Piano Man now, where you're like, okay, like,
yeah.
Every time I walk into a karaoke bar, I hear this fucking song.
It was like top 100 song countdown they'd always do on classic rock. You're either going to get Stairway or Hey Jude. You didn't even have to listen to number one because you knew.
Yeah, it's just like, listen, no question, it's a fantastic song.
Yeah.
Might be a little bit overplayed, by 10,000 times.
Yeah. I still like it when I hear it. I'm like, yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
I'm not like, burned out. It's just one of those songs that, like I said, it's probably in my DNA from the old parents' drinking days.
Yeah. Yes. Gene and Robin.
Yep. Fun times. I do want to say that I really love the album that was called A White Sport Coat and Pink Crustacean.
Oh.
I didn't like any of the songs on there, but I just had to give it props for the name. It's just, that was good. I like to give people ones, credit. Right?
Was that earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like to give people credit for cool names. I have pride in when I do that. So
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 3, I'm going to go with Volcano.
Let me hear you. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows.
It's just a fun island sound, kind of like a calypso style. Definitely. Island music. Kind of one of the more heavier traditional island sounds that you could, when you think of stuff like Harry Belafonte or something like that.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I read a comment. This is so great. I read a comment about that song, and they said that only Jimmy could even turn a disaster song like this into the fun song with a positive message. And I was like, that's pretty fantastic. That's pretty spot on. Yeah. So it's a great pick.
Sounds about right.
Okay. So for my third place song, my third place selection, I'm going with the country themed anthem of Why Don't We Get Drunk? Great karaoke song. It's fun to sing along to.
Yeah.
And it's just as good as any other country song I've ever heard. So, I mean, that it's one of those early songs that's like just a fantastic song. And it, you know, I mean, the lyrics are fantastic. The thing about Jimmy Buffett, not all of his lyrics are, great to me, but he'll always have at least one classic zinger in his songs. And and that one definitely is included in the chorus. So yeah, if you guys know what I mean, so.
Like blowing out your flip flop. Every time I blow out my flip flop, I gotta look on the bright side because it makes me think of that. But yeah, I mean that song is like perfect, like representation of the party atmosphere of a lot of his concerts.
Yeah,
back in the heyday.
Oh yeah. Imagine everybody going, "Why don't we get drunk? Hey, screw." So great.
I mean, that's like spans like all the age groups because I could see college kids just loving that tune. Everybody.
Absolutely. All right, so that was our third selection. John, what do you have for your second selection for the top Jimmy Buffett songs of all time?
I had to go with Truck Stop Salvation.
Everybody talking, everybody straining, trying to get a little deep.
It had this really, I think it was on his very first album.
Okay.
It was back when he still had that really late 60s, early 70s folk rock sound that I just couldn't place who he sounded like other than a little bit of the Jim Croce, Bob Dylan style.
Yeah.
But I really like that song.
Good choice there. Good. I like the deep cuts. I like that. So, all right, for my second selection, I'm going with the classic party song. Listen, I tried to pick not too many of these songs, but I'm like, I just keep going back to these. They're so fun. Like, it's so painful making these lists. Ethan always goes, "Let's make a list," and I'm like, like these take the life out of me, man. Like they hurt making these decisions like this. It's like if I had kids, I'd be like, well, no, I'm Sophie's choice. Take this one. Take this child. We'll keep this one over here. Yeah. No. So my second selection is Finn's. Fans to the left, fans to the right. And you know what I like about this song? Listen, you know this. I've always been a sucker for good backup vocals.
Yeah.
And some of his songs have fantastic backup vocals. And I think that it really helps him because he knows this. His voice isn't the greatest voice ever, but if he has like great backup vocals, you're like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's really good. Like I like these backup vocals. I mean, and I love that the whole story of this song. It's like he's like this chick moves to like down. I don't know if she moved down or if she's visiting. I don't know, but she goes down to Florida, visiting from like I don't know, like Kansas City or something like that. And she's the hot chick in this town or this bar or wherever she is.
Yeah.
And hey, these land sharks, all these guys just swarming around the one hot chick. It's like it's fantastic. So everything about this song is like great to me. It's definitely cheesy. It's corny, but it's like definitely one of his big eight. And it's one of those interactive party songs.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So swarming the only hot chick in town. Yeah, there you go. So, all right. We're down to the number one selection. What is your number one Jimmy Buffett song of all time?
Because of my catch I said earlier, I'm not going to say Margaritaville. And I'm going with Pencil Thin Mustache.
Oh!
I wish I had a pencil thin mustache, Boston black kind, a two-tone.
It's fun vaudeville sound. It was just too fun for me, and yeah, that one hooked me. So yeah, that's mine.
I love it.
Just a fun story, and
it's one of my favorites. It's
yeah,
definitely one of my favorites. Fantastic selection. For me, this one was the only easy part of me making this list today was picking out my number one song. And not only is it my current favorite Jimmy Buffett song, but it's always been my favorite Jimmy Buffett song. And that song would be from the title track of his 1976 album, Havana Daydreamin'.
Havana daydreaming. Boy, he's just dreaming. His life away.
And that's from that album right there. It's my favorite Jimmy Buffett look. It's my favorite Jimmy Buffett song. And you know what's funny is that album, which is a great representation of his catalog, the Songs You Know by Heart album, right?
yeah.
But that album, it has a song it's only from the 70s. It came out in like 85 or something like that Greatest Hits album. It came out in like 85, but it has only songs from the 70s. That album is the only album that does not have a song represented on that Greatest Hits album. And I'm like, that is like my favorite song by him.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy.
I'm
like,
going to check that out because it wasn't on that album. And so I was
right.
going through that whole album, and then I made it through most of the 70s albums, and then was skipping around, and I was like, all right, I'm going to stop. I'm sure.
What was that?
I listened to the Songs You Know by Heart and the
Yeah.
songs you don't know by heart.
Yeah.
And I actually like most of the songs you don't know by heart.
What was the remember that I sent you that review of that guy that said there was a box set that came out in like the early 90s from him, like beaches, boats and ballads or whatever.
Yeah.
And what did the guy say? He's like, you know, it might be a little much for like a non Jimmy Buffett fan. Like you might get like or sunstroke or something like that. Or, I can't remember what he said. Sunburnt or something. I don't know. But you're like, I don't want to get heat stroke. So yeah, that Havana Daydreamin', that's my favorite Jimmy Buffett song by a long shot. Now, runner-ups. What do you have for runner-ups, buddy?
Cheeseburger in Paradise.
Cheeseburger is paradise. Give on earth and on God's life. Not too particular, not too precise. Cheeseburger in paradise.
It's a great name.
Yes.
I probably like the name more than I like the song, but I do like the song. It's just one of those fun songs of his that the audience participation and
John, I sang
just
that.
Eating a cheeseburger in paradise sounds really good right now.
It does. I sang that in karaoke last week.
Nice.
For the first time ever. I was like, I mean, I've heard it a million times. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, it gets hard kind of a little bit because when he's like, going through all like the stuff really fast, and I was like, oh gosh, but everybody knows I like mine with lettuce and tomato. Everybody knows that. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So it's a fun party song. Everyone was singing along, and I was like, whoa, okay, well, if everyone's singing along, then I don't think anybody really cares. So it's karaoke. Like,
I hate it when you think people are going to sing along and they don't, or they sing along to help you because they know you're doing so bad that.
Oh no!
I've had both.
We gotta help this guy out.
Yeah.
That's when if I don't know something, I'll be like, I'll find somebody. I'll like kind of lean over and like, help me out here.
Man, the very first time I did it, I was totally hammered on Jägermeister.
Oh God!
And they said if anyone came up and put the word Jägermeister in a song, that you get a bunch of swag and stuff. So I went up and sang "Hey Jude," and I was like,
"Oh no,
hey Jude, don't make it bad. Drink some Jaeger and make it better."
Yes. Jägermeister, remember that used to be such a massively huge drink back in the day.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I mean, I didn't say it was good. I'm just saying it was a very popular drink. You know, like you go up to the bar and you're like, yeah, what can I get you? I'm like, yeah, can I get a shot? And they're like, of what? And they're like, just
Cough
a
syrup.
Jaeger. Can I get a shot of black
Get a
licorice?
shot of Dimetap.
Yeah. And like that used to be the shot. And then I would say, I don't know when it got replaced by Fireball, like kind of like replaced that in like, I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that. But
I think enough people puked up Jägermeister that they had to come up with something else.
oh God, so gross. Oh, yeah. Okay. So any other runner-ups, or is that your main runner-up there?
Oh, yeah, I had a tough time. I really enjoyed Don't Bring Me Candy.
And don't bring me candy. And don't tell me lies.
I was trying to decide if it was going to be my number 3, but I just liked Volcano too much. But that was a good, an earlier folk song too.
Yeah. I dig some of his older stuff. Like in his older stuff, he like sings. He like, you know, tries to sing more.
Yeah.
You know, like the later stuff, he's kind of like, you know, talking, you know, like, don't know. Don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna go when the volcano blows. It's like, okay, it was easier to sing, I guess.
Yeah, you got the like little island sound effects in the background and the steel drums.
Yep.
Can't lose.
Exactly. Yeah. So okay. First off, you know, like you said, you got to give it to Margaritaville, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer because, you know, pretty much is responsible for him becoming a billionaire.
Yeah.
A literal billionaire. I mean, the guy created an empire of everything with, you know, his swag and his, you know, his restaurants and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So I remember when I first moved here, this guy at the bar, no, it wasn't at the bar, it was at the pool. It's just like a regular community pool. He goes, "You coming over?" And I'm like, I mean, isn't it kind of early to be coming over there? He's like, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I mean, you got a great point. I mean, I'm not doing anything right now because I just moved here." So he's like, "Yeah, come over to the pool." I'm like, "All right." And I go over to the pool, and this guy, okay, this is not just like meeting somebody at the pool, right? Like he would get up at like 8 a.m. and he would set up a giant table full of like essentially a full bar, right? But not only did he have a full bar of like everything, this is a community pool. It's not like his own pool. It's
crazy.
a community pool. This is why I was like, whoa, I think I made the right choice coming down to Arizona. It's nuts. So anyway, this guy also would bring out a Margaritaville mixer, like a full-on giant Margaritaville mixer.
Oh my
and
gosh.
He'd be making drinks for just strangers. He's like, "Hey, you guys want a drink?" Like just shouting at like random girls. I'm like, this is awesome.
Hey, kids.
There would be kids occasionally running around, but it's like a lot of adults. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. It's like, I feel like I'm at Melrose Place or something like that. Just everyone just walking around, like just drinking and like, this is crazy. So yeah, where was I? What was I talking about? Oh yeah. Anyway, so Margaritaville, yeah, I mean, that song, it's like, you can't escape how big that song is. And so I think you're right. You can't even really include that unless we were doing like a top 10 or something like that.
Yeah. Or
Now-
top 4.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, so
Or maybe 5.
Yeah, I definitely had, now these are not my, these are honorable mentions of my honorable mentions that I had on here, John. So bear with me. I have some comments on some of these songs. So like Cheeseburger in Paradise, of course I have that, you know, I took some lines from some of these songs. Like, you know, of course, you know, I like mine with lettuce and tomato. I mean, come on, it's great. It's like, who puts that in a song? It's like, I like mine with, yeah. So Volcano, like we said, you know, that someone was like, well, he turned a disaster song into like a fun party song. We're like, woo, I don't know when it's gonna blow. Yeah. Son of a Sailor. Son of a Sailor. I love Son of a Sailor. I love the backing vocals of that song.
That's a good one.
And he's like, one of my favorite, remember, there's always one fantastic line in this. He's like, "I'm just glad I don't live in a trailer." I was like, yes. Well, like even back then, it was like you didn't want to live in a trailer. But maybe now, like a lot of kids, like because they can't afford places, they're like, trailer sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah, people like living in RVs and
They're
stuff
not
like
called
that.
they're not called trailers, they're called tiny homes.
There you go. There you go. Some of
Sounds
these
better.
trailers back in the day were like way bigger than these tiny homes.
Yeah, for real.
Come Monday. It's a
Oh, yeah.
good song. It's kind of like a sad song though.
Yeah.
Like he once said that this song kept him from killing himself. And I'm
Good
like,
Lord.
oh, okay.
This is a song that kept me from killing myself in the Howard Johnsons in Marin County.
See, these stories are great. That's a great story.
Well, it hit, and I paid
You-
the
you
rent,
were
got
really-
my dog out of the pound, and it was on. It's
You were really
off.
sad in a Howard Johnson?
I was deathly depressed. Yeah, I was in a Howard Johnson's under Mount Tamalpais in Marin County, and living there, playing in San Anselmo. It was awful, and I wrote this song, and it hit, and the rest is history. Heading out to San Francisco for the Labor Day weekend show. I got my hush puppies on. I guess I never was meant for glitter, rock and roll. And honey, I didn't know that I'd be missing you so. But come Monday, it'll be alright. Come Monday, I'll be holding you tight. I spent 4 lonely days in a brown LA haze, and I just want you back by my side.
Grapefruit, Juicy Fruit. I
Oh,
like
yeah.
that song too. Another great tune with awesome backing vocals. You know what I really like about that song? You know, it's like there's the first part where he's like, grapefruit, Juicy Fruit. You know, like
Yeah.
that part's it's good. But when he starts breaking down going into the song, that's when it really gets good to me. I'm like, oh, that's really good. I really like when it starts breaking down into that song.
Mhm.
So that's good. And then A Pirate Looks at 40. This song,
Oh, yeah.
this song always reminds me of my dad. And I actually have my dad singing this song in karaoke from,
Nice.
I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what my dad's going to be singing, but I can't wait. And he's like, he just starts busting out the Jimmy Buffett. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, that's a deep cut. I like that.
I've been drunk now for over 2 weeks. I'm messing around and I see got to go down that bottom.
I've been drunk now for over 2 weeks. I've been drunk now for over 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, fantastic.
Sounds
Ugh.
rough.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, I had all my buddies come into town last weekend, and we drank like for a couple days. I'm like, oh man, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's rough. And I'm like, 2 weeks? I couldn't do that in my prime. Not that I even had a drinking prime, but I'm just saying I couldn't even do that in my prime. But my first runner-up was Pencil Thin Mustache, and you're right. I'm like, every time I remember when my dad used to play that, I used to get excited when that song would come on. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
yes, because this song's so different than all of his other songs.
I know. It's totally different.
Yeah.
I
And I
don't
was
know.
like,
That might have
what is
just caught
this?
me. Caught me
And-
because of that.
And John. And it has one of my favorite one-liners in his song. He's like,
Send it off to college to gain a little knowledge, but all you wanna do is
learn how to score. Yeah. I love it. I just love it. Now, John, I had a question for you. Now, so would you rather have a number one hit, like on the pop charts, like a huge number one hit that nobody remembers? Or would you rather have 5 songs that everybody knows by heart and that could sing at every party that you ever go to? It's kind of a dumb question.
Well,
but-
speaking as an artist, you create stuff for people. So I would easily rather have stuff that people remembered than a one-hit wonder that, you know, took over the charts and was massive for a small period of time and ended up on some compilation. That's what I call music 1994.
Boom. Now, you
Yeah.
know what's funny is like I actually hear kind of like the opposite when artists go, I make music for myself, and if it becomes a hit, that's fantastic. But like, I remember like they were asking John Lennon like a song like, oh, so like, I don't remember, I don't know what it was. Some dude in some park. He's like, that song, like, you made that song, and like, it just spoke to me. He's like, well, I wrote that song about a Yoko. It wasn't like me
Yeah.
writing, you know. I didn't have you in mind when I thought, did that song, but
Yeah, that was
but
kind of a
that's
creepy
awesome
encounter.
if it if it connected with you, that's fantastic. But that's part of the thing though. Like if you could connect with that many people and, change lives and make everybody's lives better, I think that's just so awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that, his entire legacy, at the beach and, just you think of Jimmy Buffett, you think of like, I don't know, him sailing or fishing and flying his boats around, eating
Kind
his
of like
burgers.
the yacht rock type
Yeah.
of thing, but more fun.
Right. Yeah. Everyone's singing together, smiling, having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, if more of us wished we could do stuff like that, I think things would be a little better.
Yeah.
Wanting to create things to make people have a good time instead of just for making money or stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Isn't that how
But-
you'd want to be remembered? Like,
Yeah.
like we said at the top of the broadcast here, his music spoke to people. It created an escape for these people to go party and have a good time for, a day. They're working their shitty 40-hour a week jobs or whatever, how long they're working. And they go to this concert, see a bunch of weirdo parrot heads in the parking lot. Everyone's drinking, having a good time. People offering each other beers and, just,
Yeah.
doing silly stuff. And then they get into the concert and then they're all singing together. I'm like, that is so fantastic. Like what a great legacy that would be, right?
I could see how you'd want to follow that around. It's like, chasing that kind of bliss everywhere. I think that's why those communities end up doing that, is because they get really tight and it's just a great time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I just think that that's such a awesome thing. I mean, like we said, he's always smiling. He was always having a good time. He never complained. You hear these artists, they're like, I'm not singing my old shit. I'm not doing it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you dick. You know why people are going to your show? They want to hear your frickin' Margaritaville. Now frickin' sing it right now. Just sing that song and act like
nobody
you're having a
gets
good
hurt.
time. Jimmy Buffett looked like he was always having a good time. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was having a shitty day. Everyone has shitty days. But you know what? He always looked like he was having a good time. And everyone appreciated that, because if you read some of the tweets and messages that went out about Jimmy Buffett, you would genuinely see that this guy, he was the real deal, man. He was the real deal. So I don't know. I just saw that, he, even on his deathbed, he died of skin cancer, ironically.
Yeah.
But he died of like some rare skin cancer. And his daughter Delaney said that Jimmy was, even up until the very end, was in good spirits. Like, you imagine this guy's dying and he's just like, she's like, even though he was in a lot of pain, he still smiled every day. He told everyone not to be sad or scared, but to keep the party going. And I'm like, oh, that's so awesome right there. Like, come on. That's how I think he should be remembered right there. It's like, he's like, look, he knows he's like on his deathbed. He knows he's going to look, everyone's going to die. So you might as well be somewhat encouraging and like,
Yeah.
insightful.
Yeah.
So at the very end, he was smiling and he wanted everybody to be happy. So
It's great.
I think his legacy, I mean, he had to be amazed of what he built over the years, because when you think of country music today, it's not like the country when we were growing up. It's not anything like that. It's
No.
not. Remember, like the old joke was like, oh, fucking country. It's like just fucking sad songs. It's like my dog died and all this shit. And you're like, fucking. Now when I
Yeah.
think of country songs, I think of party songs. I think of like, oh, It's like, I'm drinking tequila, I'm taking clothes off, and blah, blah, we're partying. We're, and all these beach infused songs. Like, come on. Kenny Chesney, Zach Brown, Toby Keith, Alan Jackson, even Dave Matthews did a tribute to him right before he died. I mean, there's all these tributes, but my favorite tweet, and I'm going to end it with this. My favorite tweet was from Sammy Hagar. And here's what Sammy Hagar says. Sammy Hagar says, the godfather of lifestyle. Jimmy started it all and took it farther than anyone. He taught us how to live. Jimmy taught us how to wear shorts, flip-flops, and a worn-out t-shirt. Walk on stage, go to your favorite restaurant, and just be comfortable. Jimmy turned us on to Corona beer, tequila, and margaritas. The first time I met Jimmy, he said, "Oh, you're the guy that's trying to get my job." And I said, "Of course. We all want to be you." And he said, "Rest in peace, Mr. Buffett." And I love that because he owned, everyone always says, like, what is like Sammy Hagar, like the rock version of Jimmy Buffett? And you know what? He is. He is. And Jimmy Buffett changed music. He changed rock and roll, changed country, or whatever you want to call his genre. And he changed it for the better. So I just want to thank you for coming on today and, talk a little bit about, Jimmy Buffett, some of the other people that passed. It was a fun show, and we'll have to do it again, man.
Hopefully not too soon.
No. Yeah. Listen, there's going to be no shortage of people that are going away. But yeah. But hopefully it's not,
Hopefully it's not people we care about for a little while.
They're like, John, I'm going to call you up in a couple of weeks. Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney. Yeah.
Still call me.
Yeah. All right. So for Big Johnny, my name's Josh. And as always, thank you for being a friend.